Hey, this is Sri here. In today's video, I'm going to talk you through how my client Hannah was able to save her marriage from the brink of divorce by taking 4 important steps. Now, before we dive in, I just want to let you know that I'm opening up a few spots for my free masterclass training, which is an amazing training that will help you learn the 3 steps that my client Sarah used to be able to save her marriage from the brink of divorce. You'll absolutely love it. So make sure you stick around to the very end and I'll give you all the details on how you can access that free training. Now make sure you hit the subscribe button below so that every week you get access to my latest videos teaching you specifics on how to improve your marriage, how to become the best version of you, how you can learn specifics about male psychology so you can learn how to communicate with your man in the best possible way to get the outcomes that you desire in your marriage. Now the chances are that if you're watching this video, your marriage probably isn't where you want it to be, and my heart goes out to you because I can tell you as a person who, speaks to women every single day in difficult marriages, I know the pain that you're probably going through. And, I think often it's really beautiful to derive inspiration from people who have been able to overcome things and been able to overcome challenges in their marriage. And in particular, I wanted to talk about a one-on-one client of mine, Hannah, who, came to me in a really, really dark space and wasn't sure what to do. She felt huge amounts of guilt. Her husband had an affair. There was just a whole range of issues and problems that they were facing together. And, when she came to me, she was in a highly emotional state, wasn't sure what to do. She was having challenges internally within herself because, when marriages aren't going well, often the individual themselves, not even the person who's, been the culprit of the infidelity, but the person who's on the receiving end, they start to have a whole range of negative emotions that come up, whether that be, feeling like they're inadequate and not good enough, feeling rejection, feeling like their whole life is completely turned upside down and they're not sure what to do and what steps to take, and they're getting completely conflicting advice between what's on the internet and what they may be hearing from their local counselor and so forth. And so I can understand there's a huge amount of confusion with the journey that you're probably on at this moment in time. And so this video is really about providing you with some clarity, but providing you with some inspiration so that you know the steps that my client Hannah took and how you can begin to apply those yourself and start making some headway and really making some progress in your marriage. And if you apply these steps and you really put them into action, you take a long-term approach to this, no matter what happens in terms of the marriage, you yourself are going to create some massive healing from within. And to me, that is such an important part of the journey that you're on. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to talk you through these 4 steps that my client Hannah used to be able to save her marriage from the brink of divorce and how you can begin to apply those immediately. Now, the first step that my client Hannah took was to really go deep into male psychology. Now, I know I've said this a lot in the past and I'll continue to say it. There is a huge difference between men and women when it comes to communication. It is so important to recognize those differences. And often in relationships, when men and women communicate, each party is assuming that the other person is going to interpret the things that they're saying in the way that they would interpret it, rather than the way that the other person interprets it. And a lot of the times when, men communicate with certain things, they like to be fairly logical, they like to be fairly direct. And women, on the other hand, tend to have a little bit more of an emotional basis to it. And what I'm saying here is that women tend to be a little bit more connected with their emotions. It tends to be very much around how they feel and so forth, whereas, like I say, men tend to be a little bit more direct. And because of these differences, a lot of the information that's being communicated gets interpreted in such different ways. And it's not just about communication styles, it's actually about the internal drivers from within. A lot of men tend to be driven hugely by this need to feel significant, the need to feel special and important and respected and all of that stuff. And because of that huge drive, it means that they automatically need to feel that way first before they can get connected into a place of feeling loved or connecting in with the love within themselves. Whereas women tend to be a little bit different. Women tend to be able to step more into love first without necessarily needing to feel significant in other areas of their lives. And so because of those differences, you find these real problems with regards to intent and the reasons why people are engaging in the behaviors that they are, and understanding why it is that he does what he does. Why is it that he goes off to work all the time? Why does he go and play sports? Why does he want to hang out with his friends all the time, and so on? And because people don't understand the deeper aspects of the male psychology, it means that when they go off and engage in those behaviors, they immediately feel rejected and feel abandoned and feel inadequate and so on. And so what happens is they create this story in their mind about why it is that he's going off and doing those things. Oh, it's because he doesn't love me. Oh, it's because he doesn't really make me a priority, and so on. And I'm not saying at all that what you're creating in your mind is fiction by any stretch of the imagination. Absolutely not. And your own circumstances are very unique to your situation, and everyone's got very different circumstances as well. But what we have to remember is that often what can happen is that there are deeper wounds going on inside of that person that we're not aware of. And because we're not aware of, we immediately, as human beings, flip it onto ourselves. And this is just a human behavioral aspect as well, not just about the other person or just about you internally as well. It's really important to go deep into male psychology, and I think that's an area that a lot of people miss the boat on, and one that we really dived into very deeply with my client Hannah. And once she really understood that, she was able to alter her communication, but also when her husband engaged in certain behaviors, she made sure she didn't create this internal story in her mind about how it was something to do with her, because that was what was causing huge amounts of pain for her internally as well. Like I say, it's not about creating stories that are fiction. It's about often we judge ourselves harshly when another person is not treating us in the way that we want to be treated. We immediately think of it as there's something wrong with us. And if we can really understand what's going on inside of, your husband or partner's mind, then what that does is it results in you ensuring that you're recognizing that something outside of you and not something that's actually wrong with you. Now, the second step that my client Hannah took was to heal her core wound. Now, what do I mean by that? So, one of the big challenges that we all have as human beings is that we've all got some deeper core wounds that are in play. We've all got some of these internal wounds that, a lot of the time we fail to process. And the challenge is that when we are wounded, when we've got, emotional scars of some sort, let's say we've had to deal with abandonment issues when we were younger or feeling like we're not good enough. When that stacks up over and over and over and over and over, what happens is over time, you get to a point where you've beaten yourself enough and it becomes too much. So what do? We then end up projecting it onto other people. We end up noticing that everyone seems to be angry, or everyone seems to be rejecting us. Everyone seems to be abandoning us. And, I often notice this pattern in my own life as well. There was a period in my life where I noticed that I kept on attracting a lot of people who were just really angry at me, and I couldn't understand why. I couldn't understand why it is, because I was trying to be nice and kind to people, and yet everyone was getting super angry at me for some reason. I couldn't work it out. And it wasn't until I actually dove deep into my core wound and really understanding, okay, what was it that was actually triggering me at the deepest level? And often it was wounds around abandonment and rejection. And those were my big ones. And really being able to step into my own masculine energy. And one of the things is if we're holding on to these deep wounds, we will often attract circumstances that will reflect what is being felt inside as well. And so if we can actually get clear on what those wounds are, if we can get to the bottom of it, then we can heal it and then ensure that when we communicate and when we're interacting with our partner, it's not coming from a wounded place. So Hannah, for example, she used to notice that any time, her conversations would occur with her husband, she would immediately get on the defensive all the time. She would immediately feel triggered by anything that he said because it kept bringing up the wound of, I'm not good enough. And when she was able to heal that, when she was able to resolve those wounds, then what was able to happen was that they could actually have conversations and she wasn't triggered by everything so much. So healing that core wound at a deeper level is so, so important and paramount to your ability to move forward and to be able to save a marriage from the brink of divorce. Now, I know part of you might be sitting there thinking, Why do I have to do the work? The reality is it doesn't matter what area of life it is, you are the centerpiece of your life. And if you don't address the internal stuff within, then what will happen is that life will continue to trigger you over and over and over and over. And you either deal with your challenges now, or you deal with them in a year from now, or 2 years from now, or 5 years from now, or 10 years from now. It doesn't matter. It will have to be dealt with at some point. And you're only doing yourself an injustice if you aren't facing up to some of those challenges as soon as possible. That I can promise you. Now, just in the comment section below, I just want you to answer the question, what's the single biggest challenge that you're facing right now when it comes to trying to save your marriage that's on the brink of a divorce? Just answer that question below and I'll make sure I respond to you. And the third step that my client Hannah took was to take ownership of her world. You see, a lot of the time when we're going through challenges in any relationship or marriage, we immediately feel like the other person is doing something to us. We feel like they're the ones and their behaviors are the things that have triggered me. And look, I get it. Like, I know that when someone engages in something like infidelity or, any other kind of negative behavior of some sort, it's so easy to say, look, you did this to me. And look, just to be clear, I do not condone any form of infidelity. It's unacceptable. And quite frankly, they need to take responsibility for that behavior. Okay, so that is key. But we also need to make sure that we take ownership of our world, which means, what are the emotions that are coming up inside of me? How am I responding to his behaviors? What steps can I take to be able to move forward? How can I ensure that I heal and I work through these challenges that I'm dealing with right now? How can I maybe see this as an opportunity for my growth, and so on? And if you take ownership of your world and what's going on inside of you, then what happens is that you can actually really start to create the healing from within. And notice that the challenges that you're facing in your relationship or marriage are often challenges that we face in other areas of our life as well. So, for example, if we struggle with rejection in our relationship, the chances are that if someone in our office gets a promotion ahead of us, then we might feel rejected as well. Or, they invite a whole bunch of people to an office party and then you're not invited, and then immediately you feel rejected as well. Now, some people might sit there and think, well, that's pretty normal to feel rejected in that scenario. And you're absolutely right. But it doesn't mean that we can't heal those wounds so that we aren't triggered by those things as much. We have to take ownership of our internal world. That includes our mindset and our emotions. And once we really take ownership of that, then means that we can take the steps that we need to in order to be able to move forward and create the transformation that we need to on this journey. And I promise you that when you take ownership of your world, you'll be absolutely amazed at how quickly things can shift, not only in your marriage, but in your overall life as well. Now, the fourth step that my client Hannah took was to make sure that she got the help that she needed. Now, this sounds very simple and very basic, but you'd be amazed at how many individuals think that they can just do this stuff on their own. Now, just like when we need to get stuff done on a house and we don't have the skill set, we hire someone. Or just like we need to get someone to help us with business growth and so forth, then we hire someone. And it's the same thing when it comes to working on ourselves. Often, yes, we are in our own physical bodies. Yes, we're dealing with our own internal challenges. But sometimes there are individuals who just have a little bit more experience, or just know those steps that need to be taken in order to be able to move forward. And I really want to encourage you to think about actually making sure that you get the right help. Now, the first thing to remember here is that you are worthy of investing in yourself and actually putting the time and effort into it. A lot of the times individuals have this belief that they're not worthy of putting time and energy into themselves, especially women, because as women, there are a lot of mothers out there who often are thinking about everyone else but themselves. And then they're the ones that put themselves at the bottom of the pile. But if you actually recognize that putting your own oxygen mask on first on the plane is the priority before you help those who need it, including your children and so on, then what happens is you're filling your own bucket up, and then that love overflows and you can actually serve others in the best way that you can and show up in the best way that you can in your marriage or relationship. It's so important to fill that bucket up inside. And I can tell you now, even in my own life, there was a time where I'd always put everyone ahead of others, and that's really important. It's important to do that from time to time, but if you're always coming from an empty place, then what happens is you're going to be exhausted and drained, and your giving will not come from an authentic place. So when you actually fill yourself up first and heal those internal wounds and get the help that you need and learn about male psychology and so forth for your own self, then what happens is you're going to be able to give the love and the affection and the attention to those who need it in a beautiful way without feeling depleted within your own self. So it's really important to have that belief that you are worthy of actually investing and growing within yourself as well. So that's a very, very important point to remember. And the second point that I really wanted to make sure I reminded you of is to make sure that you're part of a beautiful community who can actually support and raise you on this path. You see, one of the things I notice a lot is when individuals are going through challenges in their relationship or marriage, they immediately go towards individuals who are going through similar problems in themselves. Now, that's okay, but if it's just about constantly dealing with the negativity and whinging and criticizing men and talking about how bad they are and how negative they are and how they're always cheating on their wives and so on, then what that does is it sucks you down. Think of it like when you read the newspaper in the morning. The newspaper is filled with negativity. They know that that negativity is going to hook people in because it creates a fear-based response inside of the individual. So they create more of these negative stories. Now, if you listen to those negative stories over and over and over, what does that do for you in the morning? It makes you feel sad, it makes you feel hurt, it makes you annoyed and so on, and it lowers your vibration. You want to be a part of a community that's actually going to raise your vibration. It's going to lift you up as a person. It's going to help you to become the best version of you and make sure you're moving forward in a really positive way towards a common goal. And that's the reason why that I've created my program called the Authentic Relationship System, which is an incredible training program geared towards helping my clients really make the transformation that they need to on this journey. So if you want to be a part of it, you want to know a little bit more about it, all you need to do is just book in for a call with me. Just in the description section below where it says book a call with me, just click on that link, choose a time that works for you, fill out the short application form so that I can learn a little bit more about your situation, and then I'll call you at the scheduled time just so I can learn where you are now, where you want to get to, and how we can bridge that gap, and just to see if you're a good fit for the program, because I don't take on everyone as a client, but if it does feel right, you'll absolutely enjoy it. It's an incredible program, and it's one that I've been able to help create some incredible results for my clients as well. And as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I'm opening up some spots for my free masterclass training, which is going to teach you specific steps that my client Sarah used to be able to save her marriage from the brink of divorce in less than 60 days. You'll absolutely love it. So in the description section again, there is a link to the free masterclass. All you need to do is click on that, just register for a time. You'll get a whole bunch of emails that will give you the information on how to access it. Just turn up with an open mind. Just get a pen and paper and make sure you write down plenty of notes, and make sure you stick around to the very end of that training, because I'll make sure I give you this lovely gift that I know that you're going to really, really appreciate as well. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you've liked it, make sure you hit the like button below. If you want to get more videos like this, make sure you hit the subscribe button. And make sure you let me know what your biggest takeaways are from this video. Just comment below and I'll make sure I respond to you as well. And if you want to learn why do men always come back after a separation, just click this video above. If you want to learn how to stop emasculating your husband, just click this video above. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll talk to you in the next one.